And you had not yet had a conversation with Daniel that wasn't as Mary.
No.
Like on the phone there, that was the first time.
And I never did until the film was finished. I never had had lots of conversations, but they were always as Lincoln and Mary. And even within that, we could talk about what was happening during the day, but as Lincoln and Mary.
So even if you talked about the Dodger game, it would be as Lincoln and Mary.
But we wouldn't, because I knew Mary would never talk about the Dodgers.
This is Talking Pictures, a movie memories podcast from Turner Classic Movies and HBO Max. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Today's guest, Sally Field. For better than 50 years, we've been watching so much of Sally on television and in movies that we feel like we know her. We don't. My dad used to say the same thing about John Wayne. Americans think they know him, but those are just his characters. Turns out, though, Sally Field has revealed so much of who she is through her characters, we do kind of know her now. From Gidget to Norma Ray to Sybil to roles in Steel Magnolias, Lincoln, Forrest Gump, Places in the Heart, and her new film, Remarkably Bright Creatures, Sally Field has put all of herself into all of her work. That's why she's so good. In her 2018 memoir, In Pieces, she's very open about her childhood trauma, about her relationship with Burt Reynolds, and about her struggles to be taken seriously in Hollywood. Here now, my conversation with the great Sally Field. So this is no small thrill. I mean, you're flat out, I don't know how honest I'm supposed to be. You're like one of my favorite actors ever. There's nobody, you've had a huge impact on my life. And the fact that you're in this room.
Really?
Yeah, really. So like I've mentioned a lot of times that Star Wars is 1977 and I went and saw it 3 times. But by the second time I was like, why are we going to see this again? Right? Because I saw Smokey and the Bandit 3 times in 1977 and that's what I wanted to see. And I think I liked a lot of things about that movie, but what I think I liked best was learning right off the bat, these feelings that I'm having. It's for a girl like this.
Oh,
I didn't know what it meant.
Wow.
Do you have fond memories of making, that was a complicated time in your life, of making Smokey and the Bandit? Let's go
where do we begin?
What are some of your complicated memories about Smokey and the
Bandit? Of course I have. What a turning point. It was huge at every level of my life. It was a turning point. I had such a hard time getting out of situation comedy television, because in the 60s, if you did situation comedy television and you were female, you never got out. That's where you lived, that's where you died. And I started in situation comedy in 1964, and then I was doing Flying Nun. So I weren't never going to get out unless I just was so determined to get out. I was either going to get out or die. And I had just inched my way out, and I had done this quite wonderful piece that I'd worked so long to be able to do, which was Sybil, and it was on TV. And then it was
like a 4-hour, 2-day, back-to-back nights miniseries.
When we had just started doing this kind of thing on television that year, when they did Roots, the same year that Roots came out. And then I got this phone call, and it was from Burt Reynolds, and he wanted me to do this film, and the script was really, really bad, he said. And it was really, really bad. And but I was so shocked that he would call me, and I thought, he couldn't have seen Sybil, because I look really like a very mentally ill person in it. And he said, no, I haven't seen it. I always liked you in Gidget. So, okay.
That's like 12 years earlier.
I know,
right?
I know. So I went off and did it, and we just ad-libbed our way through it, and that was it.
You didn't know Burt, but you knew Burt Reynolds was a big deal.
Yeah, he was a big deal, but he was on his way to being a bigger deal.
Yeah.
He was on his way to being what he became.
Yeah, so he was getting to be, but this was a different level of fame. Like you hadn't been with, you hadn't experienced, like when he asked you out on this for like the first date you guys had, which you didn't even know each other, right? But he said, like, you have to come into his car because he couldn't walk through the lobby of your hotel.
Yes, that's it. He told me, he called me up. I was in a different hotel than he. I had never met him. I'd never met him. The script was vile. There was no script. We basically just dumped it anyway and ad-libbed our way through. And he said, well, I'll take you out to dinner. And of course, I was so nervous. I thought I would pass out. I, I had really never been on any dates. I started when I was 18 in television, and the whole world of that ilk was swept away from me. And he couldn't come in the lobby. So he had his bodyguard, Pete. How do I remember that? Pete came in, knocked on my door, and I went down, and I remember just sort of being a fool, a clown. I only know how to be a clown when I'm nervous. And we went, did we even go to dinner? Yeah, we went to dinner. I think there were others there. I remember that. There were others there. I just was nervous. It was all just a blur. Like, what was I doing there? I didn't know how. I had learned how to be an actor, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to be that girl.
And then he swept you off your feet. But the way you write about it is like, it was almost like you were aware that you were aware of the imperfections in this decision as they were happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could get dark here. And, this is the thing. Bert was a wonderful but incredibly complicated character, man, who was very much like my stepfather that I grew up with. And I had a really tumultuous relationship with my stepfather. And he frightened me and he tormented me. And yet I worshiped him.
So he was an actor, stuntman, and then an actor, right? A cowboy actor, right? He played Tarzan a couple times.
Yes, right? Yes. Bert was exactly Jocko. He frightened me. He put me down. And all I did was I wanted to please him. I wanted to be right for him. I wanted to be good enough. And that was my stepfather. He would humiliate me, my stepfather. And ultimately, Bert did too. But then the thing was that something in me wanted to be an actor more than I cared about anything else. And I had studied and studied and studied. And just jumping ahead, when Norma came my way, and it was the first thing that had come my way that I didn't walk into a room knowing that no one wanted me, except I had to be so much better than the other women had come in the room. And Bert read it and threw it at me, threw it in my face, and said that no lady of his was going to play a whore. And Norma, I said, no. I found myself sticking up for Norma. And it was the turning point for me and for us, because I was always frightened of Bert's brutality. He could be physically mean, and like my stepfather was. And I was so little.
You mean literally little?
You're a little person. Little person. Yeah. But I'm an angry person.
You can curse, by the way.
Okay, I can fucking curse. Yeah. And I was angry. I was the big part of who I am that my stepfather gave me.
Yeah.
Just absolute rage. Don't you fucking mess with me. And Bert stepped over the line, wanting to get in the way of my work. The thing I had worked for so long. And he said, he picked on Norma, and I said, Norma is not a whore. She is not a whore. She's this incredibly brave and complicated woman.
Just doesn't sit well with me anymore, George. And you got your wife, got your 2 kids in high school. There's a lot of gossip. I got my 2 kids. I don't know. Just doesn't make me feel good.
You're here to make me feel good.
I don't know how anybody could read the screenplay for Norma Ray and think like, oh, that's a whore.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What part are you reading?
Well, because she was having sex with guys,
Yeah, I got it. I just mean, I mean, for a guy who understood movies, it's a very limited read on that character.
Well, that was sort of Bert. Saw everything, obviously, and people do. He saw everything through the eyes of where he had been brought up, and he couldn't get out of that shell, and it hurt him as a man, and it hurt certainly him as an artist, because I think he was so much more than what he ultimately became, because he couldn't do it. I had to talk him into doing Starting Over.
Really?
Yeah, because he was frightened of it.
Look, you write about it. First of all, your memoir, it's so honest and so incredibly well written. So you talk about your stepdad. He abused you in every way that people would imagine that, while outwardly projecting this gregarious character and acting like the best stepdad in the world.
But he was that too.
Right, and
that's the problem.
Right, that's the problem.
That's the confusion to a child.
Right, but yeah,
he was all those things.
Yeah.
If he'd only been this person that beat you and put you in chains, and you could hate him.
Right, easier then it's less complicated.
But I loved him, but unfortunately, he taught me as a child that love feels like this warm thing and danger together.
Right.
That without just have the warm thing is boring, and have the danger, run. But they come together. So I've had a hard time, finding how that mixes.
And I don't want to oversimplify your life. So it feels like, though, that in a sense that the way Bert helped you was because it was probably impossible. You're in your early 30s when you are seeing him.
I was in my late 20s.
When you started, right?
Yeah.
But then you get into because you were together off and on for a while.
Yeah.
But you start to see that this is Jocko, which is everybody calls your stuff. So like that, and like you almost were like, I gotta stop this. Like I have, and
it was my way of exercising myself from Jocko. In a weird way, I was using Bert, and I think I write about that in the book, that I had learned to manipulate in my way, so that I could squash him like a bug, because there's my rage.
Right.
The same thing I could do to my stepfather. I had learned that ultimately my stepfather came back and asked me, because I had become what I, a successful actor, and would I be the one to give him the award at the Cowboy Hall of Fame? And how about no?
Yeah.
And the rage behind that, had I been a more compassionate person, forgive, no. How about no? How does that strike you?
Yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, when you start, I mean, it's when in the book, when you sort of at, 15 or something, right around that age, when you were like, you decided, oh, wait a minute, fuck you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you cut him off, and so you barely speak to him, right? I'm like, it's like a moment in a movie where you like, I felt like standing up.
Yeah.
Right? Your mother was an actor, also an incredibly complicated person. But the fact that the stepfather who mostly raised you and your mom were actors, it doesn't even feel like that has anything to do with why you became an actor. It like normally you'd be like, oh, well, her parents were actors. It's like almost, it was like an accident. And by the way, your parents were also actors.
Yeah. The only way I think that it might have linked is that there was a language. In other words, it was in the household. There was a language to it. It wasn't like somebody who, comes from, Padoke and wants to be an actor. It seemed that would be like, I want to go to Mars. But because I lived in this household, and they were auditioning for a role in Perry Mason or whatever, it was somewhere in the vernacular.
Sure, I get that. Of course, you grew up in the San Fernando Valley in L.A. and in and out of around Encino.
Yeah, but I'd never been on a set. There weren't a lot of Hollywood people around, so I didn't know that. But the thing that happened to me, it was because I was raised in the 50s, and my mother came from deep South, and my grandmother deep South. So very Southern women have a kind of stoicism about them. When I would get angry, my grandmother would say, "Don't be ugly."
Right.
So,
but even angry, but crying. She like you'd hear, "Don't be ugly."
Don't be ugly
when you're crying.
And so by the time when I was in the 7th grade and I was 12, I got on a stage-ish, because it was just a classroom with the chairs moved back, for the first time, doing something. And I heard myself. Places that I had told you can't do that, you can't do that, you have to stand up, you keep your legs together, put your thing, you're the 50s, you have to. And all of a sudden, I was angry. I was laughing. I was everything I wasn't supposed to be. And I heard myself for the first time. And the stage from then on, and luckily I lived, and it was in the valley, I lived at a time when the arts still existed in schools. And it's a crime that they've taken that away from young people, because I found myself.
So you graduate at 17, and at 18, you get Gidget. And it's absurd how you got it. Because...
Actually, I was 17, and then I turned to 18 while I was doing it.
So you got the job when you were 17?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. How'd you get the job?
When I graduated, of course, I had no place to go.
Big public school in the Valley, Birmingham High School.
And so my stepfather said, there's this workshop at Columbia Studios, because a friend of his asked him to come and teach a sort of physical movement part of it, because he was a stuntman.
Right, he was great around. He could ride a horse. He was all good at all that
could
stuff.
you come and teach these young people to throw a punch? Oh, good God in heaven.
Right, yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. But okay, and so he said it's located at Columbia Studios. And so I wasn't allowed to drive. I was 17, but I still wasn't allowed to drive that far.
Because that's a parent's rule, or
it was part of, it was, again, very much like Jocko, like Bert. Jocko needed to control me.
Yeah, I got you.
And I wasn't allowed to drive, to leave. So my brother, Rick, my brother Ricky, drove me and dropped me off. And I did an audition with my mother from what play was it? I write about it in the book, and I can't remember what it was, but it was Toys in the Attic, which is about repressed sexuality. And
just the kind of thing you want to do with your mom.
But I don't know, because I didn't know then that to do a scene, you really should read the play.
But you just read the scene.
I just read the scene.
Right, you took one scene.
Looks good. Look at this. Oh, jeez. And so she did this scene with me, and I got into the workshop, and we got calls. I got calls the next day. Of course, I say we because I think it was Jocko that answered the phone, and all of a sudden he's very controlling. And it was from Universal. They were doing a series called Tammy. You remember that?
Sure, yeah.
But and he said, no, she's not. And so he was like, all of a sudden, my manager, my agent, my something. I didn't know what was going on. All I cared about is that I got into this workshop and I was going to go do this. First day I went to the workshop, my brother drove me and dropped me off. And I just was there, just observing, looking, there wasn't really any scenes. You do little line readings from pages from television shows that were left over
from the year before, like random stuff. Like
it wasn't like I was doing
episode 17 of some show that aired last year. Right,
it was just like, and I was standing on the street corner waiting for Ricky to pick me up, and he was late, and I was just standing there waiting. And Eddie Foy III, who is the casting guy, a really
head of casting at TV.
Screen Gems,
yeah.
the television division of Columbia.
And then he comes up to you and says what? Like, hey.
He says, was I Jock Mahoney's, stepdaughter? And I said, yes. But then it was like, yes. I was the Gidget girl without even knowing what I was doing. Yeah. And he said, do I have an agent? And I went, no. And he said, would I like to come on an interview the next day? Yes. And so he said, great. Well, you come on this interview and tell me what time, and just be here and ask for him and go to this place. And okay, great. So Rick picked me up, and I told Jocko, and Jocko took me, and sort of took very much control of the whole thing.
Acted like a big shot.
Yeah, it was like, I think describe it in the book because it's exactly what it is. It literally is like he wanted to, he lifted his leg on all the furniture. It's just really.
Right.
But this was my world now. I knew this. I had been the queen of the drama department at Birmingham High School for a long time. I knew what I was doing. Get out of the way, boys, and see how it's done.
You were the Betty Davis of the Birmingham High School theater department. Yeah,
I was,
right.
And so I had no nerves about that. Nothing, not a single drop of nerves. I loved it. Give me another sandwich to eat.
So you're good at that. You were good at that.
This was what I did. This was, let me do what I do. I didn't know how to do what I do, but I lived in this world where there was some part of me I could access that I couldn't access when I was off stage. And I did. And I loved it, and I would laugh. And I remember what happened is I crossed my eyes at one point because I just did.
Like, you mean just like to be funny at the end of it?
Ooh,
Right.
And
everybody laughed.
Everybody laughed. And I could hear them. I could hear the response of whoever was there. And ultimately, by the end of summer, I was still 17. I got it. And I didn't have an agent.
But you still didn't even fully know what it meant to
No.
get it, right? You didn't even realize what a big deal it was.
No, I didn't.
You're the star.
Yeah, I had no
idea.
idea.
Gidget.
All I knew was that I was going to get $500 a week, and I got to still have this world that I could talk to myself.
Because we're doing this interview, I obviously know more about you than I did before, even though I thought I knew a lot about you. I thought Gidget was on for like 4 years. It was one season. It got canceled.
Yeah.
And then they realized they'd messed up.
They messed up.
Because in the summer it did really well.
It
should
did
have
really
come back.
well.
Yeah.
And it became hugely popular. And they said, we need to, you need to find another vehicle for Sally. Now, in these days, they would have just brought it back. It worked.
Right.
Bring it back. Not in those days. So they had to find another show.
But in between those two shows, in between the Gidget, which being canceled, and you didn't really care about it that it was canceled. It didn't even.
No, it didn't break my heart, but I loved Gidget.
Yeah.
Because there was a part of me, like I say, there was a part of me that was Gidget. I did understand that part.
And it was freeing to have this
character.
And
it was freeing. And not only that, she had a father.
Yeah.
She had a father. And Don Porter who played my father, was the most loving, kind, and I got to pretend I had a father. And I have a difficult time reading, especially if I'm nervous. I think I'm slightly dyslexic, and no one noticed. And we'd have to sit around and do script readings, and I would be nervous then.
Like table reads with the whole cast.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
that'd be the only time I was nervous. And I couldn't remember the words, easy words, that everybody knows, but I couldn't remember what they were. And he would sit next to me, and he could sense when I would be like, uh-oh, and he would tell me the word. And it felt like I had a father for one tiny moment.
Yeah, that's nice. It's nice to read after sort of reading about Jocko, that there was at least somebody there who didn't take advantage of you and was just supportive and only supportive.
Yeah.
But in between, before you get Flying Nun, you do this movie, right, called The Way West, right? Right. But it's crazy because it's your first movie.
Yeah.
And it's got Kirk Douglas and Robert Mitchum and Richard Widmark, like tough guys.
Yeah. I adored Mitchum. Widmark, I liked him a lot, but he just wasn't very interested, quite honestly.
Yeah, right.
He was doing his work. He didn't want to. And Kirk Douglas was in competition with Mitchum, especially when he would watch Mitchum would come and sit in the dirt with me because I would sit.
You were like too embarrassed to sit with the other actors. You didn't even know what to talk about.
No, I would go sit in the dirt. I'd rather sit in the dirt anyway. I liked the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
It felt good. And I was at a little sort of potato sack dress, and I belonged in the dirt, liked it. And so Mitchum would sit with me. And I never could understand a single word he said. I didn't know what he was saying. I don't know if he was stoned or what. but
Right.
I couldn't string 2 words together. And I would go, yeah, yeah. And I go, and pretend I understood what he said. Sometimes I would get the gist of it, but I did know the feeling of it is that he was somehow accepting of me and he was good to me.
But he was like,
This is what he
you're
said.
good at this.
He said the only thing that I understood that he said to me, and then I thought, did I understand that right? He said to me, he said, you know, you're one of us.
Come on.
And I went, well, okay. And that could have been a lot of things. I didn't really know what it meant. It certainly wasn't overly, sentimental or overly, flattering. It just was a fact. He said, you know what? You're one of us. And I just said, well, thank you. And then years and years and years later, in the 80s, I think, because this was in the early, what was this? Was still the 60s.
This was,
60s. Still the 60s.
This is your like
Holy
65,
smoke.
64, something
yeah,
like that.
This is still this is 66. And then in the early 80s, I had to join a table at the People's Choice Award. On that award. And I had to join this table, and I went to sit down at this table, and Mitchum was across the table. He was still alive, older, obviously. And he stood up and looked at each other, and he said, I told you so.
I love that's such the thing. Saying that to you at that time that you're one of us. It is literally the best thing you could say. Better than you're great.
Yeah.
This is a community.
Yeah.
And you're in it.
Yeah.
You belong here.
Yeah.
And he was this great intuitive actor too. That sort of to him recognizing that in you.
Wonderful, wonderful actor.
All right, much more to talk about with Sally Field. We'll be right back. Okay, so I'm struck by, you do this movie, then you get offered another show, this Flying Nun show. You read the script, and you're like,
Oy.
right. Oy. Instinctively, you're like, not for me. Don't want to do it.
No.
And it is not because you had just made a movie and you thought I'm going to be. You weren't even sophisticated enough. Forgive me to think like that. Right? You wanted to keep working, but you would have done another TV show, but just not this.
Not that.
Yeah.
I was 19 by then. I don't want to play a nun. I don't want to be a nun. I don't want to play a nun.
A flying nun.
I don't want to be that either.
Stupid.
And it was stupid. Okay, it was stupid.
Yeah.
And I just said, this is stupid.
But then you have an agent, so you're telling no to your agent.
Yeah.
And you then the head of the studio
everybody's calling me. I had to do it. This is thing. And I said, no, I just know it isn't right for me. And they're coming to my door. And then the coup de grace, they called my stepfather. They called Jocko. And they asked him to come and speak with me. By then, I had moved out. I had my own apartment in Encino. I was still sort of supporting my family. I'd started supporting my family even when I was making $500
more than anybody else in the family is making.
Exactly.
By far. Yeah.
So, but I had my own apartment, and he came over, and then he said to me that Harry Ackerman, the producer, had called him, and he pretended as if he'd been great friends with Harry Ackerman. So, like, since when? And I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. And he said to me, well, you know what? If you don't do this, you may never work again. It frightened me, and that's exactly what he wanted it to do.
He was trying to scare you.
He was trying to scare me. It did frighten me. It frightened me. And so I called them. I called Harry and said, okay, I changed my mind. Mind you, they had started shooting the pilot with somebody else, which I didn't know. Oh, dear God. And this young woman, had shot 3 days on the pilot and then was fired. Oh. And
it's a tough business.
Yowie. And then they brought me in. So I started this 3-year odyssey that was very, very, very hard for me because I didn't want to do it. And I mean, I gained 20 pounds in 2 hours.
You started eating like
I
compulsively, like that
just because I had never felt depression before, because now I didn't have access to my voice.
like this just felt foreign.
It was just foreign. It was
not.
false. There wasn't anything real about it. I asked Harry Ackerman. He took me to lunch once. I said, could I have one scene that was really about people talking to each other, just one every so often? He said, and I wish I can remember exactly what Harry said. I think I wrote about it. Harry said, people don't want to be taught or touched or moved.
People don't want to be moved.
I know.
Literally the only reason we watch anything ever is to be moved. Whether it's with laughter
but that's
or
what he said.
Right.
Taught or touched. He just said they want to know what they're going to see. They want to see what they saw the week before. I mean, and that's when I went,
finger on the pulse of the audience. Yeah.
God. but Harry had done all of those situation comedies, and the good news is, in the midst of that, in the midst of this massive depression of how the hell am I ever going to get out of this alive, the woman who played Mother Superior, Madeline Sherwood, who will always be my savior, came up to me in the
a very established actress,
a very
theater
established
actress, right?
theater actress. Yeah. And I was walking away after a shot, and I remember standing in the dark with her because the sound stages had very dark areas. And she said to me, she scared me a little, and I wasn't sure what. And she said,
I imagine also, let me just jump in. I imagine you were thinking also, is she taking me seriously? Does she think I'm any good at this? Because she's a real actress and I'm doing this nonsense.
I wasn't even aware. I wasn't thinking anything by then. I was so numbed, and I was so also suspicious of everyone, because by then, when the minute The Nun went on, it was a huge, massive hit. And The Nun was the joke on every. There was, Bob Hope had his show on everyone. Everybody was. It was the joke everyone had. It was everybody's tagline was the Flying Nun. And I couldn't tell the difference between that being the show or me. And
so you felt like that you were being made fun of.
Right. Yeah. I felt I was being humiliated. And then people were wanting to befriend me. And I wasn't sure what it was for. But Madeline said, listen, you're, on Thursday night after work, you're coming with me. You're meeting me over at this address. It's only 2 blocks away in Hollywood, and you're going to meet me there after work. We get off. And I went, okay. She said, it's the Actors Studio. You're going to meet me there. And I went, okay. I'd never heard of the Actors Studio. What the hell is that?
You had like a little breakdown on, right? Where you had easy lines, but you
I did. I just said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And put my head in my hands and said, I have to go home. I have to go home. I have to go home. I can't do this. I can't do this. I couldn't do it anymore.
And she stepped in and was like,
and she stepped in and she it was her arm around me, leading me to the car. She's going home. She's going home. And then shortly after that, she said, you're meeting me at the Actors Studio. And it was the beginning of changing my life.
That's the beginning of your Actors Studio growth. Just tell people the story of how then you got, going through, you won Oscars for Norma Ray, you won another one for Places in the Heart, but Lincoln, like that story is so good, and that moment is so good from start to finish. Like first year on, you're going to play Mary Lincoln, and Liam Neeson's going to play the president. Right?
Yeah. So, early on, when an earlier version of the Lincoln script, I had seen wonderful Steven Spielberg at a party or something, and he had said he was doing this, and would I be his Mary? Would I be Mary? And I went, yeah.
Sure.
You betcha. You betcha. And so, life just went on and we then were going to do, and this was like, a year and a half later, we were going to do a reading with Liam Neeson in New York. And my God, the around this table was the creme de la creme of New York actors. they were there, and we read the entire Tony Kushner's wonderful screenplay, and it was such an incredible experience. And I left, and thank you very much. And I left, and Stephen called me a little time later and said that Liam was dropping out, that Liam, this wasn't right for him, and everybody agreed it wasn't right. And okay. And so then Stephen called me a little ways after that and said it was now Daniel Day-Lewis.
Years have gone by.
Yeah, this is like tick-tock,
Right.
you know. And now it's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis, who is Daniel Day-Lewis. And I went, wow. And he said, and so I really don't think you're right for it anymore, Sally. And I went, oh, okay. And hung up the phone. And luckily, at that time, thank God, I was working with finally a really great therapist to try to finally get to all of these places in myself, these pieces in myself that I had to put together. And at the same time, my mother was dying, basically. And I realized that I could not just go quiet, that I needed to go back to the part of me that could fight.
So you called Stephen?
Called Stephen. And I said, Stephen, you're wrong. I said, if I thought that there was somebody else that was Mary, that had her physicality, that had her emotionality, that could do this, that was around and didn't have all the baggage that I have, that I know I have, then I would say, you're right. You've got to, that's your Mary. But I'm your Mary. And I know it. I said, test me.
You said, I'll audition, basically.
I'll audition. Yeah, test me. And he said, okay. I said, but I want, hair and makeup and wardrobe. I want to bring in some Mary. So he said, okay. And so then I then met him at a little, and mind you, now I'm doing a television series, Brothers and Sisters.
Which you won an Emmy for.
Yes, which I won an Emmy for. But still, I'm working there every day, and I'm trying to find time on the weekend that I'm going to now do this. And I had to go to Amblin, and
that's his production company.
His production company, and there is a screening room, and so the floor of the theater, like the floor of the theater, so it isn't really a stage. And there was Janusz, the brilliant, he was there, thank God, his brilliant cinematographer.
Kaminsky, yeah.
He's running a little camera. It isn't a big, full-fledged deal. And there's nobody else.
There's no other
There's no actor.
Nobody playing Lincoln.
There's nobody playing nothing. I'm playing to nothing. I'm just like, okay, I can do this. And I'm going to read one of the really heated monologues that Mary has, except to nothing. And I can't look at Stephen because he's not giving me anything except something distracting by looking at the thing and by looking here and by, looking in the lens. So I had to just do it to the wall, which isn't the best way to do your work. But, and I knew that I hadn't taken flight. You can feel it. You can feel it when you grab hold of something. And it lifts you off. Like I say, it's almost out of body. You're not there anymore.
But you didn't get that.
I couldn't lift off. It's like Dumbo's my ears were not in flight. And so the next day, was it the next day? Stephen called and said, I'm sorry. It's just, I tried. I walked around. It isn't going to work.
But you'd felt the same thing. Like
I said, yeah. I know it. I know it. And he said, I'm sorry. And I said, I wish you lots of luck. And then the next day, Stephen called again and said that he had given that tape that I'd done to Daniel. And Daniel said that Stephen was wrong. And Daniel said that he would fly in from Ireland, where he was living, and test with me to show Stephen. I mean, it's such a generosity all the way around. It makes me cry to this day. At first, I thought it was going to be a coffee. Can we just meet or something? And then it was Daniel that said, no, Stephen, you need to see us together. You need to see Lincoln and Mary together.
Same thing, in costume,
In
makeup,
costume, and the
whole thing.
whole 9 yards. And that's what we did. And Steve, and
So you had not met him ever.
no, I'd never met Daniel and DDL, as we call him. And he was getting ready in one little place, and I was getting ready in another. And then I came over, and I remember I was sitting in a side room of the lobby of the theater. That's
dressed
Amlin.
in character.
And I am full on Mary now. And I am like, I was never going to let that aborted flight happen again.
So that means if somebody comes in, you're Mary.
I'm Mary. I mean, I'm not going to be like a crazy person, Mary. I mean, I'll like nod my head or whatever, but I'm sitting there, and I'm sensing that there's this shaft of light coming through the blinds. And I thought, don't move, Field, don't move. There's a shaft of light coming through here. And I can sense over here, without turning my head, there's some rustling, there's some hubbub. Something's happening over here. And so I slowly turn and look, and it's Daniel and a few other people following along behind him in his top hat, with his walk and his coat, and he's Lincoln. And I do not get up. I only look at him with a smirk. He walks and stands up over me, and I give him my hand, and I stand up in the dress, and he leans down and kisses my forehead, and he says, "Mother," because that's what he called her. And I say, "Mr. Lincoln." And we then go down into where we were before, and there's a table, and we begin some bizarre, I wish we had we have that film. We begin some bizarre improv, because there was no scene.
You don't have
There's no scene. There's just an improv. And the improv became of us waiting to do something, because we were waiting to do something. And Mary became Mary, and she was picking at him all the time, fixing his collar, and you just don't look right, you know.
And he'd say what? He'd like react to that
He would react, but he was very much Lincoln. And I was, from everything by then I had done research and studied, I was very much what Mary was. And she was ultimately who put him where he landed, because she knew how to do this and he didn't. She was very much a political animal. And we did these bizarre things. And then I could feel the day was sort of over, and I just said, thank you, both of you. This was a remarkable moment in my life, and thank you, and just left. They didn't even say it's time to go. I just said, I'm out of here, without saying that, sounding like a little like me. I drove home, because by then I lived in Malibu, and this was in Universal City. So Universal. So
depending on time of day, that could take quite some time.
Could take 4 hours.
That's right. Yeah.
And I walked in the door, the phone rang, and it was Daniel and Stephen together saying, "Will you be our Mary?" And it was this sort of full circle of me learning how to stand up for myself.
And you had not yet had a conversation with Daniel that wasn't as Mary?
No.
Like on the phone there, that was the first time?
And I never did until the film was finished. I never had had lots of conversations, but they were always as Lincoln and Mary. And even within that, we could talk about what was happening during the day, but as Lincoln and Mary.
So even if you talked about the Dodger game, it would be as Lincoln and Mary would talk.
But we wouldn't, because I knew Mary would never talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah, couldn't have been a worse example. But if you talked about what was happening in politics that day, if you're talking about
it could be, but that would be very logical, because Mary would talk about that, and she would tell him what to think and feel. And if he didn't do something about it, then he was a fool.
I love that story. All right, we're going to take one last break, come back, Super 8 with the great Sally Field. Thank you. Back with Sally Field, ready for the Super 8? Have you seen these questions? Did you look them over?
I
Give
looked
some
them
thought?
over-ish.
Okay, that's good. I don't want. We don't really want more than that, but
Okay.
I don't want to catch you off guard. What's your most memorable movie watching experience?
Well, I have a couple because I told him.
There are no rules here.
Well, certainly. All right, I have to go here. My granddaughter won't watch this with me because she said it just isn't accurate and she refuses to see it. But it's wrong. You have to see what history was, even if it's wrong history. That's what we were thinking at the time.
Right.
But Gone with the Wind was so hugely important to me when I was a little girl, even though it was way before way before I was born. But it would come out every year, and they would put it at the Egyptian Theater.
Oh, so you didn't see it on television?
I saw it in a big theater. My mother would take me every year. We would see it, and it mattered to me so much because this was when I was little, so I was in the 50s. It was in the 50s. I had never seen a strong woman who was willing to be ugly in a way. She would be, as God is my witness. And it had a great effect on me.
Yeah, and Scarlett O'Hara is a supremely powerful character.
Supremely powerful.
Who gets knocked down again and again and again.
And tomorrow is another day,
Right. Tomorrow is another day.
Go home. But I'll think of some way to get him back. After all, tomorrow is another day.
So Vivian Leigh was the right choice. You said you were going to name another one. Is that?
Well,
you can stop there.
There's one. I mean, I remember the very first movie I ever saw that had a certain effect on me, but not like this did. It was the first movie I ever saw in a theater. Was Them.
Oh, really?
And it was so profoundly frightening.
With the exclamation point, them.
It was them and these big creatures, and I think I was 5. And what were these parents of mine thinking?
That's the ants, right? The giant ants, yeah.
And they made that noise.
And the little girl's traumatized.
Yeah, it was
at the
a little
beginning,
girl.
right? Like a 5-year-old.
And
right?
I think I remember going home and acting that little girl out.
Really? Right. She's catatonic. Yeah. All right. Them and Gone with the Wind in the same thought. I like it. If you had to get do you have any tattoos?
No.
Yeah, there's no way Sally Field has tattoos.
No, I don't.
If you had to get a tattoo as a movie line,
yeah,
what would it be?
I just said it, I think.
Which one? Tomorrow's Another Day or Them?
Yeah. No, maybe Tomorrow's Another Day. Tomorrow's Another Day. Tomorrow's Another Day and Them. No, I wouldn't do Them. Them was like, but I think from a movie line, I would really have to think closely about that, but it could very well be Tomorrow is Another Day.
No, it's a good line. It's a good line. It's a good line to end a movie on. And it's a good line for going through life, like especially, and yours in particular.
We'll try again.
You okay? There's a guy you like. What movie do you show him? Like on a date?
Of mine? Or of mine?
No.
Oh,
Any
no.
movie. What movie do you want somebody you're interested in? You want to take him to a movie?
I'm not interested in any guys.
Let's go back in time. Was there ever a movie that was important enough to you that it would have been important to you that the person you were caring about or in love with also felt strongly about?
Well, sure. Just to get back to something we talked about before, Bert and I used to watch a lot of movies.
He got
together.
you sort of,
he showed me a lot of movies that remain.
Like classic movies, TCM type movies, black and white movies.
Searchers will always be one of my favorite movies forever and ever and ever.
And Burt Reynolds introduced you to that movie.
Yeah.
Oh, he's looking better. He's looking a little better.
He's looking a
little better right now. What movie villain do you relate to, or do you feel like maybe it's misunderstood?
What movie villain? I want to say Nurse Ratched, but I didn't like Nurse Ratched, but
no, and maybe she was
doing her job, but
yeah, right. No, that's a totally acceptable answer.
The first thing that came into my head was Nurse Ratched, and maybe that's because I love that movie so much. I think that's such an exquisite movie. Jack's performance in it is so
everybody's
stunning.
so good in it.
Yeah,
what's her name? Why am I blanking out on her name? Louise
Fletcher.
Fletcher, right?
Yeah,
Louise Fletcher, and she gave that great Academy
Yeah.
winning speech and their parents, and
Yeah,
it's good
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, it's a brilliant role. And it's okay. She doesn't have to. Maybe she's not misunderstood, but
maybe
she's
it's just because she's so damn good in it. She's so relentlessly,
yep.
unflinchingly good in it.
Aren't you ashamed?
No, I'm not.
You know, Billy, what worries me is how your mother's going to take this.
And you want a little misunderstood in that she thinks she's doing right.
She is, but she has. It is some stoneness, some coldness in her heart that allows her to think she's doing right. She's not much humanity in her.
You haven't played villains, really.
No, but I'd like to.
Yeah, but I'm struck. Every actor, the serious actors, Tony Goldwyn recently, like he's played a lot of villains. But like people who've played villains, they're protective of those villains. And Louise Fletcher was protective of Nurse Ratched. Like you can't hate your character, right?
Oh no, you can't feel anything about your character. Because Fletcher was also an actor studio person. She knew that's one of the first things. You have no.
You can love your
judge.
character, can't you?
No, no.
Oh, but I think like Eva Marie Saint will always tell you have to love your character.
That might have been Eva saying that, but I know that you can't have any. You just are the character.
Oh, I get it. Okay,
I mean, you just are the character. Do you love your character? No. Sometimes you do, and then sometimes you hate your character, right? Who you are.
Right, but you're protective of the character, and maybe that's a better way to say it. Because it's you. I mean, if you have self-protection, well, you're just going to argue with me. I get it.
You have to be that character.
It might be that you know more about this than I do. It's possible. I'm not going to concede that, but it's possible. Okay. All right. I like that. All right. You're a thief, warehouse, every prop from every movie, every costume from every movie is there. What do you steal?
That's interesting. What do I steal? Prop from every movie. What do I steal?
Could be a costume too.
Huh?
Could be an outfit, anything, something you like.
I keep thinking it would be something from Audrey Hepburn's wonderful career, only because she was so magical, you know?
So some Givenchy dress or something, right? That's good.
I keep thinking it's something from Charade, but I can't think of the one thing. No, even in Charade, she just looked...
It's such a lovely movie, and that's one of the I love them both in that. How do you know?
Yeah.
Is there a movie that makes you cry every time you see it?
You know, I thought about this question because I sort of glanced at it. I thought, then I began to beat myself up. I find that I don't have a lot of movies that I cry in, and I realized why.
Do you cry?
I'm a crier.
You are. Yeah.
I mean, but as I've gotten older, it becomes much more selective.
Right.
But because I started trying to be a really serious actor or learn about acting when I was 19, by then I'm at the actor studio, I realized that I started analyzing movies. You know, I started watching when people were doing scenes that were really good and they were emotional, or there was an emotion in it. Instead of being in it, I was going, how did they do that? Oh, oh boy, that's good. Oh,
so that makes it hard to cry at a moment because
I won't allow myself to be there. I think there are times that it's sort of caught me off guard, but I can't remember one lately.
What about makes you laugh every time, or just any movie that makes you laugh?
You know, the movies that make me laugh, because I saw a bunch of clips of stuff the other day, and I was reminded of how much they make me laugh, and it's not. I mean, it's going to be surprising. It's the silent films of Buster Keaton.
No, that's good.
Because always the stuff that he did, that he still lived to talk about, you can't not laugh.
When the house falls down around him,
if
it's off by 6 inches,
he's dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his his physicality, the comic, the clown that he was. I laugh at clowns, that clownish behavior. I've laughed at Rosalind Russell
Well,
when she's a clown, you know, the sort of awkward and clowny.
yeah, she's great at being a physical actress.
Yeah.
And very funny. All right. What was your mom's favorite movie?
Oh, wow. You know, that was one of them.
Which
The
dinner at 8?
Enchanted Cottage.
Oh, Enchanted Cottage. That was
Letter to Three Wives.
You can name movies that were not written by a member of my family. It's okay. And Enchanted Cottage is my grandfather co-wrote it, and
Yeah.
Letter to Three Wives, of course,
But you
my
know,
uncle.
I saw that just the other day on Turner Classic Movies.
It's
And-
super beautiful.
And it's
Enchanted
super beautiful. It is one of those movies that you know, it's on the weekends. It's always on Turner Classic Movie. There it is. And I'm doing something, walk by, and it's one of those ones you go, and you can't go and continue doing what you were doing. You just come back and go, oh, it's on. Here it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody-
And you just stand there and watch it. And Letter to Three Wives is kind of like that too.
Do you like Letter to Three Wives better than All About Eve?
No.
Oh, okay.
All About Eve wins
All right.
wins that one. Yeah. No.
What about your? I don't care what Jock's favorite movie is. What about your dad's favorite movie? Did he like movies at all, or was he?
My Real Father?
Yeah, or was he angry at that all actors?
I think he was angry at all actors. He liked baseball.
Yeah.
I don't remember. He never took me to a movie. I don't think he liked me. I don't know. I never did anything with My Real Father.
You connected with him to the extent that you did. If you'd sit around and listen to Vince Scully, even though you didn't really want to.
I didn't really want to.
Yeah.
I like baseball now, but
Right.
I didn't then. And yeah, I didn't. We didn't do anything.
Did you have any nice moment with your father before he died? I mean, I don't. You didn't have a horrible relationship with him. I got
No,
it.
he just was sort of non-existent with me, and
He feels.
I think he tried, but I
seems
just
like
there wasn't any.
It seemed like every time he wanted to tell you how hard it was for him
Yeah,
not to
that's
have
what
you
it was.
and wanted you to
He wanted me to
To
help
like
him
a-
feel better,
right to help him feel better.
and as a result, I kept trying to make him feel better. I could dance. How
Right.
about if I didn't? How about if I was funny? I could make a funny face, So it's like, ugh,
But you kept you from having like a real moment.
no,
with
there was
him.
never
Yeah.
any father-daughter thing.
All right. Here's your wild card question. You were on
Oh,
with
boy.
me when we
Yeah.
did most New Republic had a list a couple years ago that of the 100 most significant political films of all time. You came in and did the documentary, the Times of Harvey Milk.
Yeah.
So what is the best? You were very critical of that list.
Yes,
Great.
I was.
You were like, this list is horrible.
Who made this
Who made
list?
this list? It's 100. What to you is the most significant political film of all time? Like what, or any movie that you think, any movie that even
Boy,
touches in any way on politics that still hits you, that you think that you would want. How about this? That you want your grandkids to, when they're the right age, to see and understand and feel something.
Boy, that's right now at this time in this country.
Mhm.
I would really have to think about that. It would certainly All the President's Men was an important political film.
Yep, it was high on that list. I think it was third or fourth on that list.
Certainly anything that has to do with the Constitution, but I can't think of one right now that does. I do think Norma Ray is
Yeah, Norman Ray's on that list.
is an important film because it's about resistance, stand up, speak out.
Is that your favorite Sally Field movie? Is that the movie you're most proud of?
I
After Hooper?
about him. I've always felt that the movies that I cared about, and that a piece of my person is in it, and they all changed me. They all made me different on the other side of it. I feel like they're my children. I've never been able to say that I like this over that or that over this, because Places in the Heart was important to me, and Sybil was important to me, and then there were others. Absence of Malice was important to me, and Steel Magnolias and Forrest Gump, and they were all important. And some I'm in them to greater, lesser degree, and so I can't say which. I always like to think I haven't done it yet, but who knows?
All right, that's a totally acceptable answer. I'm going to tell you one story, and then we're going to go, just because it reminded me, you said Absence of Malice, which I love. Did you see Ethan Hawke's documentary about Joanne Woodward, who was your co-star in Sybil? Ethan Hawke did that documentary on HBO Max about the last movie stars, about Paul and Joanne, right? And I liked it very much. It taught me things I didn't know about them. But there's a line in there that came from Sidney Lumet, who was directing Paul Newman in The Verdict, and Sidney Pollack had directed the two of you in Absence of Malice. And Sidney Lumet said, while doing The Verdict, after a scene that he didn't think Paul had given himself enough, he said, look, if you want to sleepwalk your way through this movie the way you did Absence of Malice, fine, go. And he was nominated for Best Actor for that movie. Right?
I know.
Right. And so, did you think Paul Newman sleptwalked through Absence of Malice?
I did not. But I tell you what, he taught me a lot. He did. And he taught me a lot because I would be across from him thinking he was doing nothing. And I realized that it's very hard to do nothing. It is incredibly difficult to be quiet and to do nothing. But if you're doing nothing filled with thought, no one can take their eyes off of you, because it is incredibly powerful. And that's what Paul did better than anybody. Recently, I looked at HUD again.
Martin Ritt,
and
directed Norma Ray.
Patricia Neal. Yeah. And Paul is so stunningly good in that movie because he's a horrible person, and yet he isn't. And it isn't these quiet times where you see him hurting and not being able to get out of it. You know, it's what we talked about. He can't get out of his own past. He can't get out of his own childhood, and he's stuck in it. And yet somewhere in him is this hurt. And he was really, really a good actor.
You know who else is good at that? Sally Field. I mean, I was just thinking as you're talking about that and that silence and what you can convey, the hurt you're conveying in your silence. And I think about Lincoln, and I think about Places in the Heart. And, you know, I'm so glad you're sitting here in this home office. This has been great.
Thank you.
You're one of my favorite actors in the world.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming in, Sally Field.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I could have kept talking to Sally Field for hours. Rarely have I met someone so willing to be reflective about her life and her work, and also so sharing of herself in the process. Not since my mother, anyway. I'm just kidding. That was a line solely for the benefit of my brother Josh. James Kim is the showrunner of Talking Pictures. The managing editor is Darby Maloney. Video editor is Andrew David Lewis. Dory Stegman is our talent producer. Additional talent booking by Noea Murphy. Glenn Matullo mixes every episode. Production support from Phil Richards. Director of photography is Fred Munoz. Camera operator Kristen Torres. Set design by Raphael Laurier and Leanne Reagan-Barnes. Angela Carone is our director of podcasts at TCM. Team at HBO Max Podcasts, that's executive producer Michael Gluckstad, senior producer Allison Cohen-Sirokach, and producer Kenya Reyes. The HBO Max Concept and Design Studio, Marta Duarte Diaz, Karen Guan, and Kendall Thomas. Production support from Jaco Friedman, Liz Winter, John Renault, and Kristen Hassel, and special thanks to Julie Baton. That's our show. You can watch this podcast on HBO Max and YouTube, as well as listen to it wherever it is you listen to podcasts. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. See you next time.